After a long day of doing nothing, Donald Trump finally has decided to get to work. And by get to work, I mean put his tiny little fingers to work by posting away on Truth Social. Yes, our cognitively declining, incredibly weak president can only get work done when it means attacking Republicans on Truth Social, which is exactly how he spent tonight, completely melting down because he sees for the first time what we see, the walls closing in on Donald Trump. And so as the midterms creep up, Donald Trump knows the only way for him to have any success is to cheat, which is what he is begging and now threatening Republicans in the Senate to do for him. We are going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into the Senate Republicans that Donald Trump is threatening and attacking, I want to start with a Senate Democrat who's calling him out and making him look foolish. That's Mark Kelly right here.
I will not be intimidated by this president. I am not going to be silenced by this president or the people around him because I've given too much in service to this country to back down to this guy. In 1991, when Donald Trump was driving the Taj Mahal casino into bankruptcy, I was getting shot at over Iraq and Kuwait. In 2001, after Donald Trump said that the collapse of the Twin Towers meant he now owned the tallest skyscraper in Manhattan, I was carrying flags honoring 9/11 victims into space on a rocket ship. In 2003, when Donald Trump was writing birthday greetings to the monster Jeffrey Epstein, I was the first on the scene to recover the bodies of my fellow astronauts who died when Space Shuttle Columbia exploded during re-entry. In 2011, when Trump was hosting a reality show and peddling conspiracy theories against President Barack Obama, I was sitting next to my wife's hospital bed as she recovered from a gunshot wound to the head. My point is this: I've been through a lot worse in service to my country. The president and Pete Hegseth are not going to silence me.
Mark Kelly is putting on a masterclass right now in dealing with Donald Trump. This is something that you see from President Zelensky and from Mark Carney that they do incredibly well, and that is refuse to back down to Donald Trump. You cannot give in to him. It's the old saying with the bully and the lunch money. You give it over, he's going to come back hungrier. And we see Donald Trump's frame. We know how hungry he is all the time. So you don't give in to Trump. You don't make yourself appear weak. You do not capitulate because he will just continue to go after you. Mark Kelly is right. Donald Trump is an embarrassment. Donald Trump is a failure, and he will continue to fail. And we will all recognize that, which is what polling is reflecting right now.
Look at this in January. Donald Trump's net approval rating, not too bad, not too great. It was at -1 point, right within the margin of error, breaking even. But look at this now. Negative 24 points, way, way down. We're talking about a drop of over 20 points in the wrong direction for the President of the United States. Minus 24 points, that's a 23-point move in the incorrect direction if you're the president. And of course, what's so important here, Sarah Seidner, is it matches the trend that we've seen with other polls. That is Donald Trump hitting his low for the second term. I was doing the count last night. I think we're up to 10 polls in sort of the last 40 days, 10 different pollsters who have said that Trump is at the lowest point he is in his second term.
So how does this compare to other presidents in their second term at this point in time?
Yeah, okay. So, you know, this is one of these great examples where I kind of run out of room on the slide.
You sure did.
Yeah, I run out of room on the slide, so I just put up the Republican presidents. But look, the only one who's worse for me, either among Republicans or Democrats at this point in his second term, is Richard Nixon. And of course, Richard Nixon had to wave adios amigos goodbye less than a year after this poll was taken. He was at minus 36 points. Trump at minus 24 points.
The polling isn't going to get better for Donald Trump. It is just going to get worse. It will only go more and more downhill, and he understands that. He understands that tomorrow's election in Tennessee's 7th Congressional District, a seat that Donald Trump won by 22 points only a year ago, has now become so competitive that he is calling in to try to hype up his supporters. Is it working? Doesn't look like it. We'll know the result for certain tomorrow, but Donald Trump doesn't need to wait till tomorrow to understand that the midterms are about to look grim, which is why he is asking for new election reform, and that only comes if the Senate honors his greatest wish, which he is now threatening them to try to get. Trump began his threat by writing Obama sycophant, the former Attorney General of the United States who did so much to hurt our country and who weaponized the Obama administration against the Republican Party, and me, Eric Holder, known as Fast and Furious, just gave a speech where he emphatically stated above all else that Democrats will pack the Supreme Court of the United States if they get the chance. The word is he wants 21 radical left activist judges, not being satisfied with the heretofore, now Trump definitely didn't write that, 15 that they were seeking. It will be 21. They will destroy our Constitution, and there's not a thing that Republicans can do about it unless we terminate the filibuster, which will lead to an easy win of the midterms and an even easier win in the presidential election of 2028. Why would the Republicans even think about giving them this opportunity? The American people don't want gridlock. They want their leaders to get things done. Terminate the filibuster and have the most successful 4 years in the history of our country by far, with not even the hint of a shutdown of our great nation on January 30th. Donald Trump has overplayed his hand with that little posty post. We see Donald Trump a lot talking about wanting to terminate the filibuster, saying that the Republicans could pass quite frankly, the greatest agenda, and it would be so great. We don't actually know what that agenda is, and it's funny. The only potential piece of a Trump agenda that would get stalled in the Senate that he would want to pass would be this healthcare plan that's 2 weeks away. A healthcare plan that even Mike Johnson said he would not bring forward, a healthcare plan that now has Republican members of Congress who understand how stupid it would be threatening to resign if they have to vote on it. That is the Congress that Donald Trump has created. There's no gridlock. It's about to grid unlock because Republicans want to resign. They're tired of being held up in D.C., which, guys, are we serious? Is this the worst? Like, people are getting kicked off their health care in the tens of millions. Prices have never been higher. And you're complaining, oh, I have to be a Republican congressman. I have to take a bunch of money from lobbyists and go to dinners and parties or whatever the fuck because I ignore the needs of my constituents. Oh, it's so hard. I have to travel. Fuck you. First of all, Republican congressmen, all of them, that goes without saying. But this is the culture that Donald Trump has created. And now he's telling the Senate, you better terminate the filibuster so I can pass. I don't know what. I really don't know. Well, whenever Donald Trump talks about the filibuster, and he kind of hinted at it there, it's a lot of election reform and change in government. And for him to bring up 2028 is certainly an uncomfortable topic, knowing that Donald Trump has continued to hint about the illegal run that he wants to go on come 2028. Not to say that his 2024 campaign was certainly all that legal, but Donald Trump is now threatening Republicans in the Senate, so many which are saying, no, we're not terminating the filibuster. John Thune, Lindsey Graham, John Cornyn, these are people who've said, well, we're just not going to do it. We're not going to do it, Donald. It's not happening. And the Democrats, well, when we do take back the House and the Senate and the presidency, we actually should terminate the filibuster, 100%. That's one thing that Donald Trump is right about. We will terminate the filibuster, and we should fix the Supreme Court. You want to talk about packing it. There's one person in the world who has packed it, and it's Donald Trump, so it seems a little hypocritical for him to be talking about that. But if you don't think that Donald Trump fears two things right now, another looming government shutdown, which, by the way, we better get right this time, Democrats in the Senate, I'm just going to put that out there. But if you don't think Donald Trump already understands that come January 30th, there will be concessions that he has to give up, or he will even more badly ruin the reputation of his fracturing MAGA coalition ahead of the midterms, he understands how bad things are getting. He really does. And Pete Kegbreath having another scandal right now certainly doesn't help the cause.
We cannot say that they didn't warn us. We begin today with the words of those who, at critical moments in Donald Trump's first presidency, pushed back against Donald Trump's wishes to use the military any way he wanted.
When he would tell me that he wanted to do something, 100% of the time I checked with the White House counsel, because oftentimes he wouldn't have the authority to do what he wanted to do.
I had to explain to him, we can't do that. It would violate international law. It would be terrible for our neighbors to the south.
It would violate international law. It would be terrible. Quote, he didn't have the authority to do the things he wanted to do. Those comments were jarring at the time, and now they serve as a canary in the coal mine for where we find ourselves today, right now, in the aftermath of extraordinary reporting that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered the military to leave no survivors on a strike against boats in the Caribbean. Donald Trump and the Trump administration begin the week on the defensive after the Washington Post was the first to report that Pete Hegseth ordered everyone on the boat killed, according to two people with direct knowledge of the operation. A follow-up strike was conducted when it became clear that there were two survivors from the initial strike. Both of them were reportedly killed in that second strike. The Washington Post adds that SEAL Team 6 led that attack. Based on what we know from their reporting, it is, by the accounts of lawyers and lawmakers from both parties and experts and everyone who has weighed in publicly, likely illegal. A group of former military leaders and lawyers known as the former JAGS Working Group, they write this in a statement, quote, not only does international law prohibit targeting these survivors, but it also requires the attacking force to protect, to rescue, and if applicable, to treat them as prisoners of war. Violations of these obligations are war crimes, murder, or both. There are no other options, end quote. The black and white nature of what legal experts say the law says about the strikes are unavoidable, even for Republicans, even in the time of Trump. Here's the head of the House Armed Services Committee, Republican Mike Turner.
Obviously, if that occurred, that would be very serious, and I agree that would be an illegal act. That is not the legal opinion or the information or the legal justification. The acts that have been described to Congress that are being undertaken in this, there are very serious concerns in Congress about the attacks on the so-called drug boats down in the Caribbean and the Pacific, and the legal justification that's been provided.
So-called attacks on drug boats, because the evidence hasn't been made clear to the public, or it would appear the Congress. The Senate Armed Services Committee also announcing an investigation promising, quote, vigorous oversight, end quote. And again, that is news in and of itself. There's been nothing vigorous in the category of oversight for the last 11 months.
It's just getting worse and worse, isn't it, for Donald Trump? Scandal after scandal, screw up after screw up. Quite frankly, there's so many screw ups, and it's not looking good for the midterms. And we are going to continue to enjoy that on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.